Don't worry, I'm not here to bore you today with stories about myself. We are going to retell the story of a man I have much respect for, even though I have never got to meet him in any of my lives. But the person who created me also helped to create the world that he emerged from. Join me as we cosmically scry on this guy's experience in the world of Avi. Torne Darkwood, as he came to call himself, ponders the moon while he talks to his orcish scribe, Greximus. The yellow glory still fills me with a sense of excitement. But you were asking about my story? Where do I start? I don't even remember my birth family. I do remember the vile moon elves insisting that my family was unfit to raise me and taking me from them. You know what I call that, Grex? Kidnapping. But I escaped from those wretched fools. I even survived the horrors of the dark woods. That's not what really shaped me into a man. No, my story really starts in Planktown. The shipbuilder's place, yes. With the diver's family. Oh, and good old Jimmy. The Wolf, Part 1. Jimmy and the Divers. Level 1, Rogue 1, Unchained Rogue Knife Master. New quest, Impress the Divers Crime Family, Fundraising with Jimmy. It was the simplest of jobs. Something I've done 100 times if I've done it once. A simple lift, and not even by myself. Jimmy was going to do the bump for me. Just a moderate purse off a fat target in the market is all we needed. There was Jimmy, big nose, short black hair, skinny, weaving through the crowd like a fish swimming upstream. Not making a beeline, more of a diagonal towards the fat balding guy that I've been following 3 steps behind. And another moment, there it is. Jimmy steps up, plants his feet at the last second, and the balding human trader hits him in mid-stride. Of course, the merchant expects a lift. He wouldn't be old enough to be bald in the trade if he was that gullible. But Jimmy doesn't even try. He takes the full fall. Give him a star for acting. The merchant pats himself down and checks his purse while Jimmy makes a show of getting back to his feet. Then the target begins to show a touch of remorse. That's when I strike. A quick flick of my razor-sharp finger knife and a palm of the pouch into my vest's hidden pockets, and I am away, another stranger in the crowd, as Jimmy accepts the now poorer merchant's apologies and scampers away himself. The pouch is a bit hefty in my hand, all the better because tonight is the real con. I'll buy into a private Apollo game with a Mark II juicy to pass up. Impress the Divers, Fundraising with Jimmy, completed. New quest, Impress the Divers, the old pump and dump. The noble fish kid Nikolai was winning hand over fist. He couldn't believe his luck. It seemed, at least every other hand, he won a portion of the pot, if not the whole thing. Of course, it wasn't luck, and hopefully I was the only one at the table who knew that. I was subtly throwing the game to him, reading his tells, knowing when he was bluffing and when he was really holding. It was actually pretty easy. More so as the night went on and he continued drinking copiously, celebrating his winnings at the table, as it were. I was nearing the end of my bankroll and playing it conservatively as the evening wore into the wee hours of the morning. Finally, seeing the noble fish Nikolai yawning, I knew it was about that time. I made a big show of slowly counting my gold and lamenting my losses for the night, before yawning myself and calling it a night. On cue, a couple of others at the table who have not had such a great night decided to cash themselves out as well, and the game was on its way to being over. Collecting the few silver I had left on the table, I made my way outside and strode down the street, pretending a more inebriated step than I had, until I was around the corner. Straightening up, I then made a circuitous route around the block, giving my accomplice the go-ahead and waiting at the lookout spot. Just in time, fortunately, because there came Nikolai, stumbling for real and with a dolled-up Lady of the Night on his arm. How do they even... with a fish man? Never mind. They left the dimly lit hovel the game had been posted in, predictably headed north towards the noble and merchant's quarter. Not missing a beat, Jimmy steps from the shadows, his knife glinting in the darkness. Good old Jimmy makes a great accomplice. He knows how to angle the knife just right to catch the light. I start moving, as Jimmy gives the usual ultimatum, "Your coin or your life." I glide in behind and alleviate Nikolai of the need to answer. My weighted leather coach catches him just behind the ear hole on the right side, slightly above the gill slits, and he goes down without a sound. The whore turns her head between me and Jimmy, her eyes wide, but she has enough sense not to scream. I accommodatingly toss her my previously purloined belt pouch, with a few remaining silver inside, my fingers over my lips in the hush gesture. She catches the pouch, then looks back up, wordless and scared. I nod for her to be on her way. She makes no complaint and dashes away. Moments later, me and Jimmy are in an alleyway dividing up our spoils. Even after the diver's cut and Jimmy's fee, I made more than 100 gold today. Most money I've ever had at one time. Not bad for my first official job as a member of the divers. Impress the divers, the old pump and dump. Completed! New quest. Impress the divers, a little reminder. A few days later. As a favor for the boss, I have to stay up late and do some small business. As I wait in a recessed doorway, I admire the fat yellow rising moon. There's something about the moon. I don't know what it is. I mean, yeah, it helps us see, and of course it's often the busiest working night of the year for those of us in the trade. But it just seems to draw to me personally. It seems when it's in the sky, my soul feels wild, unleashed. I don't know how to describe it, but I can use it. On nights like this, when it's time to get to business, the moon inspires me with all her glory. Shaking off these silly thoughts, I get my head back into the game. It wasn't even hard. I know how to do this. Yes, the mark had a bodyguard, but that didn't bother me. I knew how to get the job done. It wasn't even a hit, just a warning. This semi-associated merchant had racked up a bit of gambling debt and needed to be reminded who it was he worked with. I spent 3 days watching his pattern, and I knew when to strike. Of all professions, this idiot was a cloth merchant, selling wholesale swaths and doing custom tailoring, but apparently bad at gambling. And that's where I came in. It was about 2 to 3 hours after midnight and lamplighter's hour when he and his merc guard left the closing shop. I only let them get a couple blocks down the street before I acted. They only got that far because I had to make sure the street was clear of witnesses. While approaching stealthily from behind, I threw 3 small chemical-filled orbs, which I had paid for in advance. Upon impact, they spewed thick, foul-smelling smoke and provided a great distraction. I immediately charged forward, striking from a stealthy lunge, putting a dagger into the single bodyguard's kidney. He let out a good scream and reached for his own weapon, but before he could finish his action, I had coached him in the face, knocking him out and probably breaking his nose. At this point, as I expected, my target had begun running. But the day that a gambling merchant can outrun me, you may as well put me in my grave. I caught up within a half a block and introduced my coach to his knee. I don't need to go into detail about how he fell and how silly he looked. Let's just say that I barely had to pull my knife out before he agreed how mistaken he was, and how he really did need to cash in all his life savings to pay his gambling debts to the divers, and maybe even owe them a favor or two. Impress the divers. A little reminder. Completed. Level up. Level 2. Rogue 1, Unchained Rogue, Knife Master. Fighter 1, Knife Fighter. Now I have established myself as someone not to fool with. When I walk down the street, they'll give me a wide berth, out of respect and fear. My diver's contact approached me as I was fantasizing.
Hey kid, you did pretty good.
Reaching his hand out to shake mine. We had a firm shake. I could tell he was trying to read me with his hand and eyes.
The old man wants to see you, in fact. Talk to you personally.
As he squinted and scanned my face. I kept cool, but was very surprised by this. My reputation was growing faster than I thought it could. I gave him a cool nod and told him, "When?"